Good afternoon. Welcome back to those who participated in session 7.1. We're now ready to resume our activities with the program this afternoon. It is my honor to introduce Pete K. Rahn, Secretary of the Maryland Department of Transportation. He's been Secretary since early 2015. It is my honor to serve as a member of his management team, moving MDOT to new heights in terms of delivering transportation services across all modes in a way that meets the customer service needs of our citizens and our businesses. So thank you, Pete, for your leadership.
Good afternoon. You all have been very busy. And someone suggested that this rain that we've been having has been very good to keep attendance at the sessions because no one wants to be walking out in the rain. So, and I'm sure that's not true because I'm sure you all wanted to be at every one of the sessions. So, I am so glad that you have chosen to join us here in Maryland. We are quite proud of our state. We think we have a lot to show, and I hope you will have an opportunity to see some of that, as well as the educational opportunities from the Congress. So welcome, and I know you've actually had a welcome from our Lieutenant Governor, so his welcome's worth a lot more than mine, I can tell you. I hope you've been told at least once or twice, because I'm of the opinion that, as everyone says, you have to hear something 3 times before it actually registers. But that Maryland is unique as a state within the United States as being the only one that actually has everything under our purview. So we are responsible for our toll roads, we're responsible for our highways, we're responsible for our airport that we actually own, which is unusual to have a state own the airport. We own the Port of Baltimore, again, something that's very unusual. We also have the Maryland Transit Administration, which operates most of the buses that you have seen and maybe have taken advantage of. But I deliberately, when I said the Port of Baltimore, I deliberately didn't say the Helen Dillage Bentley Port of Baltimore, because I wanted to take a chance to tell you about Helen Dillage Bentley. She passed away last year at the age of 93 and was still as tough as she had been, I'm sure, at any point in her long life. I think she ate nails and drank kerosene for breakfast. She just was one amazing lady. She grew up in the early 1900s in Nevada, had gone to school there, decided that she had wanted to be a journalist. And so she went to university, got her degree, came to Baltimore. I'm not quite sure why she chose Baltimore, but back in the late 30s, 40s, women in a field of being a reporter were on the social page, right? That's where women reported. And to let you know about Helen Dillage Bentley. Helen, and I'm sure with some very colorful language, explained that that is not what she was going to do. And she took on the chore of reporting on the port and the labor issues. And she spent her time at the port understanding it, I believe, better than anyone. And throughout that time, she added to her language so that she could talk to any longshoreman about anything in their vernacular. But she became such a proponent for the Port of Baltimore. I am absolutely certain that the port would not be what it is today had it not been for Helen Dillage Bentley. From that activity of being at the port, Helen then served in Congress. She was aggressive there and had a very good working relationship with our senator at the time, who was also a very strong woman, who both of them broke the glass ceilings. If you're from other the other countries that are here. I'm not sure if you use that term, but the idea that a glass ceiling is as far as a woman's allowed to go. And Helen broke through those, served in Congress. Then President Nixon called and said, I want you to serve on the Maritime Commission. And she said, okay, as chair. And they said, oh no, we're not thinking about chair, we just want you to serve on it. And she said, I'll be the chair or I don't do it at all. And so they said, well, you're not going to be the chair, and hang up, and several weeks goes by, and then it's, Helen, would you like to be the chair of the Maritime Commission? And from that, the stories just continue. She, as chair of the Maritime Commission, wanted to go on the very first, and I don't know if it was an Exxon or Mobil ship that was going to be the first one to go through the Northern Passage, right? And they informed her that they do not allow women on their vessels. Helen enjoyed that trip a lot. So she was just an amazing person, and I know she was proud of the fact that the port had been named after her, and I know that I enjoyed my few years in being able to interact with her. You knew that she liked you when she took her cane and stomped on your toes with it. So that was a sign of affection. So, we in having the port as an actual port owned by the Department of Transportation, it means we absolutely understand that this port is an engine to our economy. That's an overused term around the country and probably around the world. Because everyone wants to cast themselves as the economic engine of whatever. But the fact is, we know that the Port of Baltimore is an economic engine for us. Nearly $3 billion of wages and salaries come from the port. 127,600 jobs in Maryland are linked to port activity. The port is important to our state, and it's important to our future. But we understand that the environment is every bit as important as economic activity. They have to coexist. They have to live and support each other. And that's what's happening at the port. I can attest, having led departments of transportation, now this is my third one in the United States, that Maryland is a unique place from the standpoint of its laser focus on the environment. I can think of only a couple of other states that have the same determination to improve the environment that Maryland does. So operating a port in that environment means we have to communicate a lot, but we have to do our job very well. So as I hope that you all have seen the product of some of our innovative reuse of dredge material, which created Poplar Island, which was a fading island that was being washed away out in the bay. And today, has people presented on this? Have you seen this information? Okay, so you don't know about it. So Poplar Island was, in fact, a sandbar that at one time had been an island, but had just simply been washed away by the bay. And so, using dredge materials strategically, the island was recreated into, in fact, an environmental oasis. Life, the various kinds of species that are out there, sea turtles nest there, and in the spring, if you're one of a very limited few, you can actually go out and see the turtles come out of the ground and make their way to the water. All of that was done by the port. It was done as the state of Maryland and the port and its leadership commitment to improving the environment, dealing with dredge material, because also the bay had gotten to the point that it was frankly, not in good health. No, that's not even true. It was in poor health. And there had been a great deal of factories. In fact, one of the largest steel factories in the country was located right on the bay. Somehow their products seem to somehow get into the bay. And today, after more than a decade, the bay is seeing the regrowth of grasses that have not been there for decades. The visibility of the bay is returning. It is in a much better health today than it has been for 25 years. And that comes from the works of state agencies like the Maryland Department of Environment, the Department of Natural Resources, and all of us working together. In fact, DNR, Department of Natural Resources, is very anxious for us to tear down a bridge down in southern Maryland called the Nice Bridge. That's the name of a former governor. It's not a description of its condition. We will be taking that bridge down, and DNR is very anxious to have the materials from it to create an artificial reef to further grow the various fish. I'm struggling to come up with the right word to describe the bay sea life, but and if someone wants to whisper it to me, I'd be okay with that. But we even actually have dolphins. There's a group of 25 dolphins that have returned to the bay.
Resurging. Sea life is resurging.
Yes, it's sea life. Sea life. Thank you. I don't know why there was a block there. I'm afraid am I going too long here?
No, you're fine.
All right. So the sea life is returning, and oyster beds, the crabs, and okay, show of hands. I'm actually going to make you do this. How many of you have had crab since you've been here? Okay, what's wrong with you, sir? Likely excuse. We have very good hospitals here too. If you do have an allergic reaction, we do. I mean, we understand the environment and our port have to work together, and we want both of them to thrive. And I believe we are accomplishing that through consistent application of good environmental habits and a concern about the bay in a genuine way, not because we're forced to do it. We want to do it because it needs to be done. One of the things I was trying to get to, which I somehow took off on a long tangent, but it was that one of the issues we had because of the effort to try to clear the bay of debris and the cloudiness that is within it. Maryland actually outlaws the open disposal, the open water disposal of dredge materials. So we have to come up with different ways to deal with it. We have a number of dredge sites that we operate, and then our goal is that once the dredged material site is complete and it's gotten a chance to settle, we then want to use that for docks, for more ships, other ships, more storage, more area for vehicles to be transloaded. We are very proud of the fact that we are the #1 port in the United States for automobiles and light trucks. We are first for, I bet with you all I can say ro-ro. Most audiences you say ro-ro and nobody knows what that is. But #1 in ro-ro for the heavy farm and construction machinery. #1 in imported sugar, which explains my girth. And we are second in exported coal. So, last year we actually surpassed 800,000 vehicles going through our port. It takes a lot of space to deal with it, a lot of manpower, and a lot of coordination, and we've got that. So, a busy port and a successful port means that we have to continue to ensure that it has the resources that we have, and we make those resources available to the port to the greatest extent that we possibly can. So I want to thank you all personally, for your visit to Maryland, for your attending the first Greenport Congress within North America. And I don't know if we have a stamp or something we put on your forehead that says I attended the first or not, but...
They get a bag.
A bag, okay, you're good.